Hello and welcome. I'm Kylie Stone, your coach in creating a new paradigm of leadership based on using the power of storytelling to build your brand. Today, I am very fortunate to have with me a lady by the name of Oriane Juncker, who is the founder of Spotz, which is a startup for women, specifically women who have children, and mobilizing the female business owners. And today, what we're going to talk about is her personal journey and what it's taken for her, what inspired her to start the business, her commitment to making a difference specifically with women, and the highs and lows of that journey, and certainly her purpose in doing so. So, if you're someone out there who has thought about starting a business and you may already be in another job, you want to listen up, because that's certainly what Oriane is currently dealing with. If you've got young children and you thought about starting a business, then this is also one for you, because this is exactly what Oriane has done. The thing I would like to say and acknowledge up front is to acknowledge the courage in many people who join me for interviews, and namely today, Oriane's French. And so there's often, I have plenty of other friends and people who have joined me on my journey who have a French background. And, I think they've got an absolutely stunning language. And whilst for us, we tend to speak very fast, their fluency in their own language can often be very fast. So, I want to let you know that, because if there's anything for Oriane that where we get stuck, I have no hesitation in asking her that she can certainly speak it in French. And also to acknowledge that this is the very first podcast interview for Oriane, and I've had many people do their very first with me. So firstly, I just want to thank you and acknowledge your courage in joining me, Oriane.
Thank you so much for having me today.
So let's start with your business, Spotz. Can you tell me a little bit about what it is that you do?
So Spotz is a marketplace for moms to be able to sell their products and their services, because I'm quite passionate about the fact moms must have their independence, because money is power. So it is very important for me to give power to the moms, to give them their power back. And it is also very important for me to give them a platform so that they can express themselves and also unite behind a common cause, so that we can actually have an influence to change policies at a government level. Now, so this is what Spotz is about.
Right. So that's a very interesting relationship right there. So if I think what we might do is we might break those pieces down a little bit so that we can understand, because there's obviously a big difference between, what you're doing to be of service to those mothers who are in business and giving them a platform where they can start to generate some financial stability. Then there's the second piece I heard about bringing women together where they have the ability to express themselves and what that looks like. And then the last piece that you mentioned around policy. So I want to kind of look at each of these three things very separately. And I know that you're doing this as a startup whilst you have young children and you also are working a full-time job. So how about we start from that perspective? If you can tell me about how the platform's helping women who are in business, specifically around that area of getting some financial stability.
Yeah, so it actually came from my own frustration, because when you are a mom working and depending on an employer, you obviously have to go by their rules. And I realized it was pretty much impossible to remain a great achiever at work when you had young children. So that is why I actually thought the best way for moms to remain, existing in the society was actually for them to create their business. This way you can create your own flexibility. So that's actually why I wanted to create a platform where whatever their business is, whether it's a service business or a business where they sell products, they can actually earn money this way. So the platform is not only a marketplace, it's also a place where moms are supporting each other. So there is a mentorship as well that will be put in place very soon, because we're in development still, where some moms with specific skills can support other moms who have different skills. So this is really moms helping other moms. And there is also obviously content that is helping moms who are creating their business or who want to grow their businesses. So that's where actually I help the mom to really create their business or to grow their businesses. And then there is the whole aspect of supporting moms so that they can have a platform to discuss what they're complaining about. Because I realized when talking to my friends that we all had the same issues. And I thought, if we are not gathering, then we have no chance to change things, because that's how you get influence. So that's actually why I wanted the platform to have two aspects, because my main vision is really to change things for moms for the better. But I needed an excuse to get them on the platform. And actually the way, the marketplace for them to sell their services or their products is really an excuse for them to get there. And once they're there, it's like, hey, we are like a lot of women here. We all complain about the same. Let's do something about it. So yeah, the part which I call the independence part of my platform is really a pretext, sort of.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I do want to go back to the thing that you said at the beginning around specifically the pain point that had you inspired to do this, which was, you know, working under someone else's rules and therefore looking for other options. So you at the moment, whilst you're building this, are still working in a job, right? Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. I'm still working, actually not full time, but 3 days a week. I work in the pharmaceutical industry, in neuroscience specifically. And it is a job I have been doing for the past 7 years. And it has been really helpful for me to get in where I am at in my journey. But this is not my purpose. So while I was working, I was always looking for something else in my life. And now I've found it. I'm using my current job as a way to finance my startup. So yeah, this is where I'm at, but hopefully very soon I can just go 100% and achieve my purpose for true.
Fabulous. Well, I do want to talk a little bit about your purpose, but before we do that, I am now curious about your background and what it is that you mentioned. I think I heard you say neuroscience. So what is your background?
Yeah, so I've actually studied science for 5 years. I have a master's in genetics and biotechnologies. So I was a scientific, but I realized I actually made a mistake. I should have never studied science because I liked it like that, but not to really make a job out of it. And then I realized I was actually more of a business person. That's when I actually started to study business. And I worked in consultancy in marketing and strategy for a few years. And then I started to work for the customers I was working for in consultancy companies, which were the pharmaceutical industry, because obviously with my scientific and business background, that was quite of interest for them. And so I've also done a lot of research actually before I realized business was my thing. So I've studied neuroscience. I worked on consolidation of memory during sleep on rats. I've worked on, many different topics, which, now I'm actually wondering, why did I lose myself in research when I am so incapable of being a good researcher? But anyway, it led me to where I am now. And now I'm actually working on multiple sclerosis specifically. And I work in medical, so we are actually getting the drugs on the market and helping doctors to understand how to use those drugs. We're also helping the clinical research teams to actual clinical trials team to develop the drug even further, to know more about what the drugs do, how they work. So yeah, my job is really medical within pharma, so it's very scientific. But there is a business part, happily for me, where I actually work a lot with the marketing team to market the drug, etc. So that's why what I'm doing now. I'm very grateful to have worked in some great companies, which have actually given me a lot of knowledge about how a corporate works, about the rules, about politics, about the structure, about leadership as well. So I'm grateful for that experience. But now I need to move on to the next step in my life.
Fantastic. So much fabulous stuff in terms of what you do. You know, and it's so funny. I'm almost the reverse of you. I started out kind of almost like the accidental fallout into media and marketing and doing marketing. And then I got through my career, having spent 28 years in media and marketing communications, and, you know, had an underlying love for storytelling, but fell in love with science. And I think it was not very long. So the last 15 years, so I've been a coach now. 2001 was when I got certified as a coach, and ever since then I have gone really deep on, you know, the research side of things around neuroscience and all different disciplines in the psychology field. And you know, not long ago thought to myself, geez, that was a big mistake. I should have actually studied science, you know.
I can give you my diploma if you want.
we can swap. How about that?
Yes, I'd like that. Yeah, I thought science was really good because it helps you structure your ideas, and it really got me where am I now. But seriously, why did I make those choices? I really didn't know myself at the time. That's for sure.
Oh, well, you know, you bring up a very beautiful point there. And I think one of the things that I'm reminded about, and certainly in the work that we're doing at Team Women Australia, is to help people do that work specifically, which of course would be very helpful if we do it fresh out of school instead of waiting until well, certainly at my age, it was 40, but I think that I really kind of nailed it for myself. But I think, you know, the journey that we take in the traditional the traditional patriarchal model, which is it's very linear. You know, we go to school, we then go to university or college or some form of certification in some discipline. Then we get a job based on that technical area of competency. And then you work hard, and then you might get a promotion if you work hard enough and if you get the chances in the company that you work in. And then you may get a promotion year on year. You know, you're probably lucky to get this, you know, the annual increase of the 2.5% if you're lucky. If you're very lucky, you'll get a bonus. And then that's how it goes, right? Year after year after year after
Exactly.
year after year after year, right? Until you climb to the top, if you're lucky, because let's just say with a hierarchy, there's less people at the top than there are at the bottom. So your chances of getting to the top are going to be hard. Now, I'm just exhausted talking about it, right? But that's how it goes.
And there's one thing actually that I wanted to bounce back. It's actually, you are making a choice when you're a child about your whole life. It's going to determine everything because your studies are like the cornerstone of everything that follows. And you are at like 18 years old, absolutely unable to know what is going to be your purpose, who you really are, what you're good at. So this is a disaster, actually. It's all based on a like sort of, all right, you know, voodoo things, I will do that. And there are like not that many people who are aware from a very young age to really know their purpose. And so we end up, like a lot of my friends and even myself, we end up at 30 something years old and we're just wondering, what the hell am I doing here?
Yeah.
You know, so this is I think a very wrong model, but I don't have a solution for it.
That's okay. We do. That's my job. That's actually the purpose that I'm here for. Hence why, for you know, I've started at the beginning, certainly of my interviews here, is calling myself out on creating a new paradigm of leadership, because certainly I'm drawing on my background as an Aboriginal woman, and quite frankly, I think the Aboriginal culture is one that's actually got a very strong ethic and a remarkable approach to leadership, which is more of a community-based approach. It really is about each other, and it really is about the power of storytelling and your contribution to community. And so I do think there's a lot that we can learn from, you know, our greatest and most mature and wise culture on the planet and how they've been successful in effectively doing that. So there is certainly a pathway, and that's certainly my intention, is to disrupt that so that we can get more people like yourself who are now able to fulfill on something that's truly important to them and passionate, and at the same time still be able to bring in, you know, the things that you're obviously really good at, because it sounds like, you know, the work that you've done and the skills that you have gone through that path certainly are remarkable in their contribution to building a business and having an impact.
Yes, that is for sure. Because I've studied business, but I think it's a natural thing. I don't think it's my experience that is really helpful at the moment. I think what is helping me to build my business is my work on myself. It's I realize that it's not the skills that I'm missing, it's the self-confidence, the trust in what I'm doing. So I would say, yeah, my personal work is the key of me maybe one day being successful.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. So then I want to move back to the second part of the conversation. You did briefly touch on how the real purpose of you bringing the business together was to have women be able to support each other. So I just want to now talk specifically about what you did identify for yourself as your purpose.
So I guess my vision for Spotz is actually my life purpose. So I would say my purpose is to empower women to find who they really are, to support their authenticity, and also their true purpose in life. Because if all those women actually can achieve their purpose, imagine the impact on our world. It would be incredible. So I just actually would like to use my own experience so that I can help those women to go through that journey and really find their own power. Because I have that feeling that for centuries across all cultures, women have been repressed and we've lost our power. And we have no idea how incredibly powerful we are. We just forgot, and we don't even can imagine actually what we can do. And so I'm kind of here to just remind them. And I think as a group of women, we actually can see that power even better coming through. So that's really my purpose here.
That's beautiful. You know, you remind me, I've just started reading a book called See What You Made Me Do. You heard of it? It's by a lady called Jess Hill. She's a journalist, and she's done an interview and research around the areas of power, wealth, like the impact pretty much of the patriarchal model in gender, and also what she's framing domestic abuse versus domestic violence. And it was fascinating because one of the comments that she made is that it is actually harder to get out of domestic control, where there's a control or a domination, than it is to get out of domestic violence. And the impact of that abuse is where, the emotional abuse, and a lot of women don't actually call it abuse, but they are in a situation where they almost feel like they're trapped inside of a paradigm around expectations as the way in which women, things women should do and how they should, all those things. And it's been profound because, I have to admit, Oriane, I've found myself in exactly the same place over the last 5 years, having worked, fortunately, having gone through my career and not having kids until later on in life. It wasn't until I stepped out with having those children that I was very much confronted with, the old kind of models around, male-female relationships. And it has been incredibly debilitating.
I actually can really resonate with what you're saying, is that my mom, my father was one of those abusing male, and my mom has always been raised under that male control. And then my father, she got married with him, and he was as well one of those domineering person. And so we, my brother and I, have had to go under that abuse, moral abuse, mental abuse. And I think it's something that is determining your whole life, because they're always telling you, you are not enough. You are, it's kind of giving you all the basis of your future. And once you've had those relationships then, and you haven't sorted out the issue or understood why actually it happened to you the first time, then you keep repeating that model. And it happened to me again throughout my life, where I ended up in a situation where I was controlled by a man when I was actually a very rebellious person, very strong person. And I was like, how come I always end up in those situations? But I actually realized it comes from me. It was that lack of confidence. I was giving my power to those people, every time. So it was a problem from within, and I kept repeating the same pattern. And so, yeah, I know that that mental moral abuse, it has tremendous impact, and I would have preferred being beaten rather than suffering the moral abuse 10 times.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And so you mentioned the part in your business about policy. How does the work that you're doing with women and the business itself, and then how does that relate to your commitment around policy work?
So what I want is actually for moms to live in a world where they have the opportunities to express themselves, to find their true purpose. And the way the society is organized is not really allowing that at the moment. The fact that some moms can't get maternity leave from their companies, and this way not getting enough money to remain in maternity leave with their children. The fact the childcare subsidies are not good enough for some moms. Childcare is so expensive that they can't go back to work sometimes and end up for like 5 or 7 years while their kids go to school before being able to get back to work. So I think the way the society is organized is not prone for moms to really find their purpose and to really have a space to express themselves. So the aim of Spotz is really giving them that platform to discuss what they want to see change, because when discussing with moms, you realize we all have the same complaints. And then I want to create petitions so that moms can actually vote for a petition and also give money so that those complaints sort of end up in front of the governments and more especially the policymakers. And I would like to be a group that is big enough so that we can influence governments. And it's actually something that exists in England. There is a group of moms called Mumsnet, and there are 24 million or so being part of the group. So it has expanded beyond the UK boundaries. But the politics are actually very interested in that group because it's a big potential to be re-elected. So you want to make moms happy. So I think what I try to create here is really organize a group of moms, which is now disorganized, sort of.
Fantastic. Wow. I got nothing left. That's but okay, so let me ask you a couple of other questions. So I now want to look at the journey that you have taken so far. Just if we're going to flick back onto your experience in being an entrepreneur whilst juggling children and also still managing the 3 days a week, right? So let's just take a look at that for a moment. And I want to ask you a couple of questions about your experience in doing that. Firstly, I'm not going to put words in your mouth. Certainly in my experience, it's just not easy. So I want to look at a couple of things. Firstly, I want to ask you two specific questions, and I'm happy for you to answer either one of them first, but I want to look at one in which you feel like has been the most remarkable or greatest lesson or a proudest moment that you've experienced as a highlight. And the other one, the opposite side, I really want to look at what has been the biggest challenge or the obstacle that you face. So you're welcome to choose either one of those first.
I think I will start with the positive things and talk about accomplishments. So I think that us women, we tend to be very critical with ourselves. And I think the biggest accomplishments are often not the ones that you will see on TV. For me, they are those ones who are often happening in silence and happening,
Can you just hold on a sec? Can you just hold on a second? We are going to have to edit and cut this bit.
Go for it.
Guys, my cleaner's closed the door on his way out and I've lost my connection. Hold on. Okay, so I'm going to get you to start with the part where you said, so I'm going to, you said, I'm going to start with the positives. Okay, so just start there.
Okay, so I think I will start with the positive answer first. We tend to think that big accomplishments are the ones that we see on TV, but accomplishments are very subjective. And for me, the biggest accomplishments are often happening in silence, at the root of a person. And so the accomplishment I would like to talk about for me was really one of those silent ones. And actually, it came from the fact that I've always been challenging the status quo. I've always been asking the questions, which made me the black sheep in my life pretty much all the time. But I've really, these past 4 years, spent a lot of time questioning my views on the world, who I was. And I've really pretty much piece by piece dismantled all those preconceived ideas and all those self-limiting beliefs I had about myself. So you pretty much end up being nothing because you've dismantled yourself entirely. And it's kind of a internal earthquake. And it is quite depressing in a way, but it was actually one of my proudest accomplishments because it allowed me to know who I was. So, and I think you cannot discover your purpose if you don't know who you are, because your purpose is really truly who you are. So I would say that's my biggest accomplishment, because it is the reason why I'm creating Spotz now. Mm-hmm. If I had not done that work, I would still be working full-time for my corporate. So yeah, I'm very grateful for that accomplishment.
Great. So
but it actually it came from one lesson that I took hard. Really, if I had to do it again, I would do better. I think it comes from the fact I always had that preconceived ideas that I needed a business partner to create my business, because obviously I could not do it myself. I was not enough. I was not good enough. That little voice that always tells you that you can't do it. And my inner voice was very strong at the time. And this is how 2 years ago, I ended up in a business with a guy, and we actually wanted to create, I don't know if you know the grounds of Alexandria in Sydney, wanted to create an equivalent around Palm Beach. Would have been a beautiful project. The thing is that business partner and I, we didn't have much money. And so he said, you're going to work with me on my business. We can make a lot of money out of it if we're good with it. And then we can use that money to create our project. So I was like, okay, let's do it. Started to work on his project. In 6 months, we made 10 times his initial revenue. Was a massive success. But the guy obviously took the money, never gave me a cent, and never invested in our project. So, but I was a bit naive, that was my big lesson. And I took it hard because I had given my heart and soul in the project. So I pretty much ended up crashing in a wall, full speed, and ended up on my bum crying. And what am I going to do? My purpose is gone. I thought it was my purpose at the time.
Yes.
So
yes.
I took that lesson very hard. And then I realized, life actually told me 1,000 times that I had to start trusting myself, stop the self-doubt, and just love myself as well. That was my lesson. But, every time life told me I had to do that, I was like, nah. And I ended up in that situation. So if I had to do it again, I would listen before I ended up, crashing on the wall. So that was a very tough lesson, but it's what led me to realize one thing, is that I did not need anyone. He was actually more limiting me to be successful than helping me. And I thought, actually, I did it. I've already done it. So now I can do it again just by myself. And straight away after failing with that business idea, which pretty much never happened, that I had the idea to create Spotz. And it gave me, it's kind of like I got my power back at that time. And finally, I decided to start thinking, consciously sit down and just tell myself, now that's enough. You stop self-doubts. You stop always thinking you're not enough. That's enough of it. Now let's move on and let's do it. So that's actually what led me to where I'm now. So I'm very grateful for that lesson, but next time I would like to avoid hitting the wall.
Yes, yeah, that's beautiful. So given that we are in COVID, I don't know if anyone else has picked this up at the moment, but we're going to need to take just a pause for a minute. You won't experience the pause as an audience and listener because we will simply cut back in, but my cleaner has arrived late today and we have some vacuuming going on in the background. So we are going to press pause and come straight back. So don't disappear as we finish in the conversation today about the experience and journey of a leader with Oriane. I'm just going to press